Cambridge Skills for Fluency. Speaking 4 by Joanne Collie and Stephen Slater. Published by Cambridge University Press. This recording is copyright. Side 1. Unit 1. Secrets. 2. Is gossip harmless? 1.
Well, I have a terrible confession to make in that people are always saying to me, "But you're such a gossip." And I say, "Well, I'm not. It's just that when I meet people, I like to find out about them. And because I'm often travelling about and meeting new people, I sit and talk to them and I ask them questions and they tell me all sorts of things about themselves. And then you say to someone, "Look, don't be hard on such and such because he's really worried at the moment because his kids just changed school and he's really worried about it." And they say, "I've worked with this person for weeks and I didn't know. How did you know?" And I said, "Well, I was just talking to him and that's what he told me." So I have to say, although I don't like gossiping in general, I think it's very friendly to find out about people and know what they're up to so that you can tell other people about them.
2.
I think it's very nice to listen to gossip, I have to admit. I'm always got my ear open for a bit of good gossip, as long as it's not harmful to anybody. And I think it is a good point that you often learn things that are quite important to know that you may not learn through normal conversation, through someone who knows them a little better, telling you a piece of information which changes the way you look at people, and you have more information about them. So as long as it's not harmful, and as long as people aren't trying to hurt each other through gossip, I think it's quite fun. And I think people are always, if they're honest, always keeping their ears open for a nice piece of gossip about somebody they know.
3. Should you tell?
What if a friend were seeing someone else behind their partner's back or something like that, and you found out about it?
Oh, I would
that
never
be
say.
something serious?
No.
Or?
Oh, that would be serious, yes, because it's also not any of my business, I feel, and that could be very damaging to them.
It depends who you're sort of closest to as well, because I mean I've been in that situation just recently, and the woman was my close friend, and then her partner was my less close friend, and so
and it was he that was seeing someone else?
No, it was her that was seeing someone else. So obviously, I mean, I kept that secret from him, but if it'd been the other way around and I'd found out that he was seeing somebody, then I would have told her.
But I wonder about sort of serious things, like if somebody has a serious illness, do you feel that, and you have been told that this friend or a relative has a serious illness, do you think that you should tell them?
What good would it do in telling them that they are seriously ill if...
Well, maybe it would give them time to prepare, to use what time they've got left to the best. I wonder too if it would stop them.
Sort of starts a chain reaction, I would imagine, in feeling it.
I don't know. I have a friend who's a little older than me who has cancer, and she knows she has cancer, and is dying of it, and her family all know. And in fact, she said that this has been really good, that they can really sort of make the most of the time that she has left. Now, I'm not certain if that's always the right thing to do, because some people might not be strong enough to cope with it. But then on the other hand, the strain on the family, if they had that knowledge without telling her, would have been enormous, I would have thought.
I would have thought most people would want to know. I mean, if you find out that you're ill in any way that's serious, the question surely at the back of your mind is, how serious is it, or could it be? I was talking to somebody who is a doctor the other day, and they said that their policy was to always tell people. But he accepted that a lot of his colleagues would take each case as it comes, really, to try and judge.
Yes.
Unit 3. Stress. 2. Yoga helps me to relax.
I personally do yoga when I'm really, really stressed. A large vodka tonic does help, sure. But yoga helps me to just relax enough so that I can sleep properly during the night, and then I get out of that cycle of not sleeping and not, not eating properly, and that seems to help a little bit with me.
Well, not sleeping is the first thing that happens to me if I'm under stress. And it's only quite recently that I've realised that the best thing to do is not to try to sleep.
Yeah.
What I tend to do now is I get up and make a cup of tea, chamomile tea, rather than tea with caffeine or tannin in it. And I put on a video of something that's fairly lightweight, and I'll sit. But it's the same with all stress, really. You have to, as you say, accept that you are stressed and try and breathe deeply and be sensible, and there's no point in worrying because it's not going to change anything, and you have to try and think that way. It's easy to say that, it's easy to give advice, it's more difficult to actually do it, but I think I'm getting better at it.
One of the things that when you are stressful is you start breathing very shallow. You're not taking oxygen down into your body.
Panicky breathing.
It's from up here in the neck.
You tighten up and you're taking little shallow breaths. So there is, a very good reason for that.
And deeper breaths. I think that's my sort of solution to my stress.
Unit 4. Well brought up. 3. Talking rubbish or gibberish or just dim-witted. Incident 1.
Well, my mother told me this incident about when she went into this picture framing shop and she wanted some Indian cloth print to be framed. So she sort of walked in and this lady said, "Yes, madam, can I help you?" And my mum said, "I'd like this framed. Can you suggest a frame?" And she was saying, "Sorry? What, suggest a frame?" And obviously she couldn't understand my mother's accent. And she was sort of talking to her as though she was deaf or speaking a completely different language. And I think it's with a lot of accents, and especially the English, where if you do not speak in an English accent, they think you're either talking rubbish, gibberish, or you're dim-witted. And she was just downright rude, and she was saying things like, No, you can't frame this. You've got to iron it out first. You can't bring it in like this." And it's all sort of very patronising and very sort of beneath and sort of on a low level of talking.
Incident 2.
I think the only times that I've experienced rudeness in England have been about accents. I was working once up in Edinburgh, and I had rented a room in somebody's house that was kind of in the suburbs, down a really tiny small street. And every night when I finished work, I took a taxi home because I couldn't figure out the bus system at all. So finally one night everyone talked me into taking a bus back. So I got on the bus, and they said that was the right bus for where I was going. So I'm on the bus, and he comes to a halt, and he's talking to me in a very thick Scottish accent, and I don't understand a word he's saying. So I was trying to be as polite as possible and say, I'm sorry, I don't understand. Could you talk slower? And all he did was talk louder and got really, kind of ruder each time. And I kept saying, "I'm really sorry, I don't understand a word, you're saying. Could you just explain to me how I get back?" And I gave him the address of where I was staying. Well, evidently he was giving me directions, and I didn't know that, and that's why he was getting so irritated with me, because I couldn't understand the accent, and he was getting very, very crabby. And finally he, the light that's over the bus that does the destination, he said an expletive and hit out the light, and he drove me home in the bus. I mean, the people the next day were all talking about it, because it's down this little lane. Opened the bus door, and he had to reverse and go forward about 5 or 6 times to be able to turn around and go back.
Unit 5. All in a day's work. 4. My day. 1.
Dear Diary, well, today's the day. I have to get on the train in a few hours' time to Bristol and go and meet Sir Peter Hall at the theatre to audition for a lead on Broadway. I know now, I think ahead, that if I get this part, it'll mean going to America to meet the head of the Schubert organisation for them to okay. But it looks promising. I've packed all my things last night. I've got to go from the theatre down to London and stay in London to perform at the National where I'm working. But this day is terribly important to me, so I hope I'm ready. I've looked through the play. Indeed, I'll look through it again on the train. But now I've got to brush my teeth and get a move on. I've got my contact lenses together, so I don't have to wear my glasses, so I look a little different. I've put all the things in my bag, and I'm going off to get the train shortly. I must remember to take some food for the train, because I don't want to waste money on that awful British Rail food. So off I go.
2.
July the 5th, 1990. Today has been extraordinary. It's Sever's first time back in the Soviet Union, and together we flew into Moscow airport. There were 800 people to meet us. There were signs everywhere. There were people screaming, there were people shouting for him, there were photographers, the television cameras were there. We had to be smuggled out through the service entrance. We were pushed out through the service entrance and out to the front of the airport, where all of his fans were waiting to meet him, and we stood outside the front of the airport with them for a couple of hours, and then were driven into Moscow. From there we landed ourselves at the hotel, sorted out our stuff, and went out to meet his official fan club, where they were camping in the woods outside Moscow, having come from all over the Soviet Union. There were over 400 of them. We climbed into a car, and we were driven out of Moscow to these woods. And we could hear lots of people singing and having fun, and we made our way towards them, and it was dusk by this time. We were very tired. And they suddenly realised that Sever and I were coming to see them. And they started to go crazy, and they all wanted to touch him and all wanted to talk to him. Eventually, we managed to get some control, and we managed to get everybody sat down, and for another 2 hours, with huge bonfires burning in the middle of these woods, and with them all camped around, they asked him questions about everything, about his life, questions about me. It was absolutely extraordinary. We were exhausted, but we were then driven back into Moscow and to a cooperative restaurant. At this restaurant, all of the rock musicians from Moscow had come to have a special dinner with us and say hello and welcome Sever home. We sat, ate with them, talked with them. It was about 3 a.m. It's now 5 o'clock, and I'm at last going to be able to go to sleep. Tomorrow morning, everything begins at 7, so I've got 2 hours to rest.
Unit 6. Getting away from it all. 3. They talked about it. 1.
I think it would be quite exciting to join a community of travellers. I think it would be important that you manage to look after yourselves as much as you could and not depend on other people for charity too much. But if you could organise that somehow, particularly as a person who's fairly new to this country, I think that joining a group of travellers, being able to see all sorts of different places each evening, finding your own place to camp and set up, I think often the pressures of a large community are too much for people to bear, and I think sometimes it's nicer to scale down and live in a smaller community. On a beach as well, the same sort of thing. I love the sea, and I think it would be nice too, and it's good for your mind to live by the sea.
2.
I think what I've always fancied most is the notion of going to somewhere very remote, the Highlands of Scotland or the wilds of the west of Ireland, and start a small holding, grow all your own vegetables, have a cow to provide milk, chickens, eggs, all that sort of thing. But actually I think I'm probably being terribly romantic about it, because I suspect it's the sort of thing that once you start it, it's incredibly hard work. I mean, certainly the people I know who've tried to be even
self-sufficient in a very small way find that they're getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and not getting everything done till about midnight.
Unit 7. Remember, remember. 2. I'm so embarrassed when I forget someone's name.
Nick, I forgot what I was going to ask. Do you have a good memory?
For some sort of areas, yes, I do, I think. And people, my friends would back me up on this. I have a sort of good memory for dates.
Yeah.
And sort of slightly pedantic details about, oh yes, we saw that film on Tuesday the 3rd of February and you were there, and
Really?
yeah. And
What about names, though, and things like that?
that's generally good as well, but I don't know, there's this thing about you get worse as you get older, and I've almost not acknowledged it, but I'm aware that I'm 33 now, and
Ooh. So am I, by the way. That's not that old, is it?
no.
You look older, though.
Oh, thank you.
Just kidding.
No, I've just become aware that names do go, and you would be aware that a few years ago you would remember names and
It's
things.
very strange, this thing about forgetting names, because there are people who do seem to be totally unable to remember names.
Yeah.
It seemed I always thought that I was actually quite good at remembering names. As I get older, it is getting a little bit worse, but on the whole, I'm quite good. But you do meet people who will forget the name of somebody that they have just been talking to.
Yeah.
And a name that is very familiar to them. They just don't seem to be able to hold it in their head. I don't quite understand
I have
that.
difficulty remembering names. I remember faces, as you said, dates and phone numbers and things like that. But names, I never, and I'm never, when someone refers to me by another name, I'll just correct them and whatnot, but I'm ever so embarrassed when I forget someone else's name, and I find it so difficult, but...
It's very insulting, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels that way. It feels that I'm... Exactly, it feels
Yes.
like I'm insulting them by not
Yes.
remembering their name.
Yes.
So I'll find when I'm introduced to someone, I'll just keep going through my head, repeating the name over and over and over
Yes.
again.
Unit 8. My brilliant career. 3. Careers advice. Conversation 1.
Judy, have you tried to give career advice in your time, or?
Yes, yes indeed, very much so at the moment. I have a daughter who is 17 and a half, and she's started on her A-levels, and it's been enormously difficult to advise her in what she wants to do. I think as a parent, your child is not going to listen to you.
No.
Anyway, I mean, she actually wants to go into the theatre, so anything that her father or I say is dismissed, because although we work in the theatre, we...
Both of you? Your husband as well?
Yeah. Well, in fact, now he actually isn't an actor anymore. He was until a few years ago, but now he's a careers officer. So he spends his day advising young people
Not to go into the theatre.
not to go into the theatre, but also on what courses they should do and what would be suitable and what examinations you need to have to get onto a certain course. But of course, as far as his own daughter goes, anything that he has to say is completely dismissed, But we have, and she has been to our local careers department to talk to them, and that is a very, very good service indeed, and they have all the books about university courses, polytechnic courses, any kind of course. If there's anything you want to know, there is someone there who you can go and talk to. It really is absolutely wonderful, and we found it a great help, because I don't know about you, but when I was 17, girls anyway were going to be teachers or nurses, or learn to cook, and that was it. No careers advice at all.
Conversation 2.
Did you have careers advice, Nick, at school?
No, and the thing I remember most was that you had to sort of start making vague decisions in the 4th year, which is, I can't remember what age. 14.
That's
13 or
right,
14,
yes, when
because
you
have that
when you select which O-levels, which are now GCSEs, you'd have to more or less decide the direction that you were going to go, sort of arts or sciences, and the two were not compatible, not in the school that I was in for the rest of your education.
How does it work in the States?
In the school, in high school in America, you have like a job counselor in school that tries to give you some advice and find out, you know, what you're good at and set you off kind of on the right path. And I can remember being told that, because most of the kids from my high school were going on to college, that it wasn't important to take classes, practical classes like learning how to type, take shorthand, learning how to actually do a job, which you actually can do in high school. And my mother didn't agree with that and said you really should learn how to do have some skills under your belt. And that was one of the best advice I had, because it meant that when I was through school, you know, getting a career going, whatever, I had good skills to fall back on. You know, I could type, I could get a secretarial job while I was trying to get something else, while I was trying to get further training. And if I ever see that personnel counselor now, I'll tell her she nearly got me on the wrong foot there. But it's interesting, you can get very bad advice, I think.
Unit 10. Threatening Times. 2. The biggest threat to the planet is unbridled industrialization. 1.
Well, I think the biggest fear we all have, really, is this huge problem of global warming, of what we human beings are doing to our own atmosphere and environment. There's a report just been published that an area of the Amazon rainforest is felled every second the size of a football pitch. Apparently every second of every day, 7 days a week, there's that many trees disappear in the Amazon rainforest, which means that the whole ecological balance is being upset, the weather's being upset. We have these strange sudden hurricane force winds in Great Britain, which we've never had before. We have hole in the ozone layer, skin cancers. I mean, it just is very frightening, I think, very scary, and we don't know where it's going to lead or how to stop it.
2.
I certainly think you're right in terms of we're much more likely to have a catastrophe, an ecological catastrophe. Certainly 5 years ago, what I was concerned about was a nuclear catastrophe or World War III or something, but I think the events of the last year or so have made that seem less likely. Although it's still a possibility when you consider some of the countries in the world.
3.
Well, I agree that it is quite worrying about the kind of, both the use of nuclear fuels and also the ozone layer and things like that. But I think that people have to take into consideration that the scientific community are moving very fast now to rectify a lot of mistakes that have been made in the past. And when you think about all the new proposals that are coming in, the collecting of things which are reusable, and the safe disposal of fridges and such things, and the certain items like spray canisters and things like that, which have been taken off our shelves. I think that both the scientific community and local government and also national government are looking into these problems very, very carefully and are moving ahead very, very fast, and I don't really think we have that much to worry about.
Unit 11. Love, Hope and Charity. 2. We'd like to feel we're doing something positive. 1.
I'm one of the directors of it's a registered charity called Rainbow Rovers, and it was set up in conjunction with another charity called the Sahara One Aid Trust. And it's unusual because it's a very specific charity organization aimed at a very specific group of refugees, which is something that attracted me to it, I think, in the first place. A lot of the bigger charities seem to be spread so thin by the time they get the funds in, and they have such high administration costs. 60 to 70% of donated monies can go for administration, and that doesn't appeal to me so much. So with Rainbow Rovers, we have really stressed that practically everything, everyone works for it for free. We get donated headquarters. The only thing that we can't get donated so far is postage stamps, but everything else, we get the fax company to donate a fax machine, everything's sponsored, so that any money that the public gives to us actually buys medicines and educational supplies for this group of refugees. The specific group of refugees is the thing that actually brought me in. It's basically about 200,000, mainly women and children, that have for 15 years been living in just an arid moonscape of section of the Sahara Desert.
2.
Well, in my area, my mother and I are making all sorts of Indian snacks for the charity Save the Children, because we feel that any child who comes to this earth has a right to health, education, food, essentials like that. It's really sad to see children anywhere in the world, it doesn't have to be just in the third world areas, to be deprived of any of those essential things, because it's just appalling, like the plight of kids, for example, in the Sudan and also in India, Bangladesh, just roaming around, who don't know the joys of life, and sort of suffering right from the beginning of their lives, whereas we all learn about suffering as we get older, whereas they begin, they start by suffering from birth. So I think Save the Children Fund is my charity.
That's the end of side 1. Side 2. Unit 12. Buildings to look at and to work in. 1. Old or new?
One of the buildings that comes to mind that I mean, coming to London, there are so many incredibly beautiful buildings. I mean, coming from the States, we don't have anything that's older than just about 200 years. And coming here and seeing things from from the 18th century or the 17th century, just St. Paul's Cathedral. I mean, it's just amazing. And the idea that at one time one could see that from miles away, and you don't anymore until you're right on it, and it's such a shame. A building that, like I said before, that comes to mind is when I first came over, I thought was just the ugliest thing I had ever seen. I could not believe anybody could ever consider giving permission to have this thing built. Was the Lloyd's building, and with these vents and it just looks like something out of a science fiction film.
That's the one that has all its insides on the outside. It has the lifts on the outside and all the pipes and everything.
Yeah, it should be covered up. But now I've grown accustomed to it, and I do see the appeal. There is. I can't actually say beauty, but there is something somewhat attractive about it. And at night they bathe it in this violet light, which like I said, looked like something out of a science fiction film. But I do look forward to driving by it now and just kind of giving it a look on the way by.
It looks very good at night as well.
Yeah,
they light it with a blue light, and
yeah,
that looks quite striking.
That's it. It is very, very striking.
Yeah,
and completely incongruous with everything else around it. But
3. Different people, different views.
Saw rather an extraordinary building when I was in Berlin last year.
It seemed to be just the most horrible mistake. It's a church. All I can remember is it's not far from the zoo, the entrance to the zoo. I assume it had been bombed during the war, and instead of just leaving the ruins, I suppose they felt, this is West Berlin by the way, they felt that they wanted to repair it in some way, and they have built onto it the most hideous tower, full of metal and concrete and just a horrible, horrible shape. And I seem to remember there's a rather dull cross just stuck on the very top. I think I might have that wrong, but the whole thing is a kind of gunmetal, dingy, ugly, nasty sore on what was, I think, once a very pretty church, judging by the very few remains.
I'm rather opposite to that. The one building I can think of that I love is the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, and it's not really its architecture in terms of its shape as a building. It's another reinforced concrete kind of building that you get all over the Western world and have done for the last sort of 20 or 30 years, I suppose. But it's the way that it uses the natural light to show off Van Gogh's paintings, and it's just there's not a lot I can say about it, but you have to really go there. But it's just stunning because it's being an art gallery that was just designed for one artist's paintings also seemed to be really. I mean, the architects seem to have studied the paintings and thought where they should go in relation to the parts.
They actually lay out his paintings in that museum according to in chronological order, so you can actually watch and see where his mind was going as you're walking around on a late summer's night at the Van Gogh Museum when the last day's light, but it's still light enough you can see everything. You kind of feel like you can see the paintings in the same light that he might have been painting them in. It is very unusual building, that.
Was that church in Berlin you were talking about, was that the Gedächtniskirche?
I think it was, because isn't it supposed to be some kind of reminder
That's
about
right. Yeah,
war?
Memorial for the war, yes.
Yeah.
I quite liked it. Mind you, I like the church as a symbol because it's on all the postcards. It's a sort of symbol of Berlin. But also I like the light inside. I mean, in the new bit, they've got lots of blue, just no stained, just straight blue stained glass, and the whole place is suffused with this blue light. And I found that very, very peaceful. And in the middle of the city, and it's right in the middle of the most busy street, just to wander in there and sit in that blue light, I really quite liked.
Yes, I didn't go inside, and maybe I should have done. I suppose it's rather like Coventry.
Oh yeah, you must go inside.
You need to go inside to appreciate it.
Unit 13. Buildings to live in. 2. One of the loveliest rooms I've ever been in.
My friend has a house which I just love going to. The house itself is nice. It's a red brick Regency house. It's pretty, not outstandingly beautiful, but the sitting room there is one of the loveliest rooms I've ever been in, and it's lovely, not particularly architectural. It has a very pretty window. It has a window set with a wide sill, and the window is arched, and she very often has a vase with some lovely flowers in it. The colours in the room are pretty. They're pale green and white, and when I'm there I always feel good. I always feel comfortable, and I feel like the sort of person that I would like to be. And I think it's a combination of the house, the room itself, the proportions of the room, probably, but also the way that she has arranged it, and probably the way she herself is, her own personality comes into it to make it a nice place.
Unit 15. Special cases. 3. Case study. A conflict. 1.
Well, I think an ordinary education's right for everyone, isn't it? And you see, the special school, it's so far away.
Well, we're not too keen on her travelling to and from school by taxi. You see, we consider, well, this automatically sets her apart from all the other children who go to school with their friends. And we've always brought her up to be as much like other kids as possible. I mean, she's got a mind of her own, and if she wants to do something, provided that it's possible, then she's allowed to do it. And she definitely doesn't want to go away and leave all her friends. And anyway, well, naturally, we'd be happier to have her here, close by.
2.
Well, handicapped children should be able to use local facilities and be part of the local community. And what we have in this case is a local authority which has only got one school for the physically disabled pupils, and it wants all handicapped children to go to that one school. Well, we believe in the basic human right of choice, so this is not good enough. What's needed is for disabled people to be able to stay in their own local communities, not be taken out of them.
3.
Well, we obviously want the best for Jane. We are studying her special needs. We have, I think it's fair to say, a reputation as a very caring authority for the physically handicapped. And in many ways, we have tried to allow children with handicaps to attend ordinary schools. But there are limits to what one can do when the school to which she wishes to go is so unsuitable for a child with such handicaps as Jane's. We have actually adapted Garwood Special School so that it is suitable and can offer a full curriculum to students who are in wheelchairs and who have severe physical problems. And we could adapt, theoretically, every school in the county as well, but it would just be far too expensive.
4.
Well, I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? Why shouldn't she be able to come to this school just like everybody else? She was always with us in primary school. I mean, there wasn't any... Well, it was great having her. She used to come and watch us even on the playing fields. There wasn't ever a problem. Well, why should she be stuck with a lot of people she doesn't even know?
5.
Well, I'm very sorry that Jane has set her heart on coming to this school, because I have to be quite blunt. I just don't see that it's a possibility at all. Quite simply, we just don't have the facilities. In the first place, we would have to build an enormous number of ramps. You can see that here we have a 3-story building, so it doesn't take much imagination to conceive the cost. And it's not just ramps, it's special lavatory facilities, probably even cafeteria facilities as well. Now, we've got 600 youngsters here. We have to put what resources we have into their education, not spend everything we've got on one pupil only. And let's not forget that taxpayers have already paid for the special facilities that have been built into Garwood School. You should look at it. It's a marvellous new building with all the equipment and the resources. Now, at Garwood, they are in a position to offer the best training for a disabled child. We can't do that. And my own opinion is that it would not be in Jane's best interests for us to try.
Unit 16. In sickness. 1. It was the most awful pain. 1.
I guess the worst pain I've ever had was, that I can remember, is I had an abscess in my jaw, in my tooth. And and it made me run a fever at the same time. So not only the fact that it makes your whole side of your head ache, that terrible ache that you get, and frequent little stabbing pains in the region of it, but because I had a fever, it felt like it went on for a lot longer than it did. It felt like you'd always been hurting and you never would stop hurting. I think that was horrible, and the relief when it was finally over was just incredible. It was like waking up from a bad dream.
2.
I think the worst pain I've ever experienced was when, over the course of 3 days, a couple of years ago, I became completely paralysed in my legs and my arms.
Oh, terrifying.
And apart from feeling very stiff, there was the most incredible pain, which was a very deep, blunt pain at times, and then at other times a shooting and stabbing pain. And this pain would come on every 20 minutes or half an hour. And so by the time one lot of pain had actually subsided, it was the next lot of pain that I was coping with. And it was quite incredible. I wouldn't like to experience that ever again. And yet at the same time, it was quite satisfying to actually get through that pain.
3.
The worst pain I ever had, actually, was in my ankle when I sprained it, and it was the second time I'd actually sprained my right ankle. And in fact, I was hopping down some stairs and landed very badly and twisted it. And I knew immediately that it was going to be swollen beyond belief. And it was a very hot, instant pain. And I thought I would keep on my sock and my boot to try and keep the swelling down. And a friend of mine drove me to the hospital, and of course they took off the sock and boot in order to x-ray it. And it was swelling before my eyes, and the pain by this point had changed from the sort of stabbing to an almost like a physical bruise feeling coming out, and it was burning and so painful that even the slightest amount of weight on it, I mean, that evening I had a sheet on it and the sheet hurt.
4.
This is going to sound silly, but actually the worst memory I have of pain is what eventually turned out to be nothing more than indigestion. I'd had lunch, and it was one afternoon I was at home looking after my only son at that time. He's my eldest son now. And suddenly I got this incredible tight feeling in my chest. I immediately thought the worst. I thought it was going to be a heart attack or whatever. And it got worse and worse, and I literally couldn't move. And my youngest son, my son, who was about 3 at the time, was in the room with me. And he made it worse because he found this extraordinarily funny. There was Daddy rolling about or writhing on the bed, moaning in pain. He just was in hysterics the whole time.
Unit 17. And in health. 3. What is your experience of 1?
Well, I suffer from all sorts of weird allergies and things like that, or seem to, so I've been the round of the alternative medicines a bit, because sort of conventional medicine really doesn't help a lot in those areas, it seems. And sometimes I've had encouraging results, sometimes less so. I've done quite a lot of acupuncture, which I quite enjoy, partly because I like the lady who gives it to me. I think it's nice to have your hand held for an hour. But I must admit, it does hurt a bit when the needles go in. And although she thinks I've made great progress, I'm not quite sure if I've experienced it myself. So I don't go to that so often now. I've had homeopathy at various stages. And recently I've been seeing an Ayurvedic doctor, who is the traditional Indian form of medicine, and he combines homeopathy with physical exercises, with diet, etc. He's good for a laugh. He also has all sorts of sort of spiritual input as well. And on the more physical side, 2 things I've done which I have found useful. One is the Alexander technique, which is about posture, and well, it's about a bit more than posture really, but about how you stand and how you do things, and inhibiting your automatic responses and bad habits. And the other's a form of very heavy massage called rolfing, which is very painful at times, but actually I did find very satisfying and very useful.
2.
I've had some contact with alternative medicine, mainly the macrobiotics. I did a brown rice diet about 12 or 15 years ago, something like that. I had stomach ulcer problems, and then immediately went on the strictest regime, which was 10 days eating nothing but brown rice, which I did, and it did actually sort my stomach out incredibly quickly. I kept up with it for about a year because you slowly begin to add other ingredients to the diet, and I found it, I must say, I did feel really good, but I just sort of lapsed out of it and have drifted away from it. I've also had acupuncture, which I had partly because I had a skin problem as well, but also to try and give up smoking, and that was terrific. And I had the acupuncture, and then I read a book as well about giving up smoking, and I stopped smoking. That was 4 years ago now, so that worked.
3.
Acupuncture, I've had it myself, and I find it very efficient, but it's a bit aggressive sometimes, and you find yourself well before you're prepared to be well. You don't actually get a chance to recover. It's quite dynamic, and I found that shiatsu suited me better. So it's a massage. It gives pressure along the meridians, along the health points, but it also stretches out muscles and ligaments and eases back pain and that kind of thing, and is generally energy giving.
4.
Well, I'm from California, so I like to try everything. It's just in my nature and my soul. I've had acupuncture, which I enjoyed, and I thought it helped me, but there's something I didn't find so relaxing about it. But my favorite alternative medicine that I've done so far, or system, has been reflexology. Where there's different points. Basically, they'll use your foot, but a lot of other different places on your body, with using different oils and pressure points on the feet that are supposed to correspond to different organs in your body, or skin or everything. And that I have found incredibly beneficial. I mean, at first I found it very painful, but it doesn't hurt as much now, and it really, the reason that I went, to go to the reflexologist in the first place, it's actually cleared up, that whole problem, so I've enjoyed that a lot.
Unit 19. Fostering Sally. 2. First report on Sally's progress.
It's Molly Elliott here. I'm fostering Sally Emsworth. I'd just like to bring you up to date with what's been going on since Sally came to live with us, and just ask for some response from you, some advice maybe. Well, as we expected, Sally has not settled very quickly. She stays in her room a lot, says very little to any of us. She looks rather accusingly at me when she asks where her mum is. She's been wetting the bed most nights and hides when I change the sheets. I'm giving her plenty of physical contact, hugs, holding her hand, that sort of thing. But she doesn't react positively to that, and she usually struggles to get free. Oh yes, she's been stealing a few things from drawers. Nothing very valuable. Bits of money, jewellery, always small things. She always gives them back when I find them, but she says she didn't take them. And one night I caught her eating bread and jam in the kitchen about 2 o'clock in the morning. She's been rather unkind to our dog. I saw her throwing stones at her yesterday. Well, I told her firmly not to do it, but she took no notice, and she just said, "I want my mum." And that was quite soon after our last visit to the hospital. What do you think? I'd really appreciate a meeting soon to talk over things. Could you give me a ring? Thanks. Bye.
3. Second phone call.
Hello? Mrs. Molly Elliott here again. You never seem to be around when I call. No doubt you've got a heavy caseload. Well, it's about Sally again. It's really getting a bit much for us. Where shall I start? School. Sally's been at school for 3 days now, but she's run away every day. Well, not far. Just down to the shops to borrow 1 or 2 things, sweets and cigarettes for her mum mainly. And she still doesn't trust me. And her tantrums are getting worse. She's been throwing things at the wall in her room. The bedside lamp got broken the other day. Oh, thank goodness it wasn't plugged in. We're really trying very hard, all of us, giving her lots of love and support, but she just won't accept us. And it's heartbreaking to see such an angry wee girl. Well, my husband's wondering whether she should go back into institutional care. But I'm sure a stable home is what she really needs. A safe place to get sorted out and to have time to respond to love. Oh, and one other thing. One ray of light, perhaps. Sally's been crying a little bit this week. Her first tears. And she actually let me hug and comfort her for a little while afterwards. Well, my own kids are getting a bit fed up with her. They were marvellous at the beginning, but Sally does get most of my time and attention, and they're feeling it. And I'm not sure it's fair on them. What do you think? Can we talk it over as a family with you? Please give me a ring. I'm not sure what Sally will be into next, and I can't watch her 24 hours a day.
4. Meet the press. 1.
Doesn't a mother have a right to be with her child for as long as she wishes, especially when she's ill?
2.
How is Sally at present?
3.
Don't you think children have rights? Not to be separated from their mother, for example?
4.
Have you got any idea what it is like to be separated from your mother when you're a young child and don't understand why?
5.
Then what do you say to the accusation that social workers are insensitive to people's feelings because they are the servants of rules and regulations?
6.
But following on from that, aren't you making matters worse by interfering in Sally's life?
7.
Is there any truth in the rumour that the foster family wants Sally to leave?
8.
And what are your immediate plans for Sally?
9.
And are you at all optimistic about Sally's future?
10.
Why is Sally not living with her mother, given that hospitals have facilities for families?
Unit 20. Keeping in touch. 2. I love the phone.
I love the phone. I love the immediacy of telephoning up family and friends. As I'm from the States, so I'm quite a ways away and just gabbling on. But I also do love getting letters from people, and one is able to. For me, I mean, I love getting it. I find myself a bit. I don't write enough, so I don't get the letters in return. But when I do write, I find that I'm able to express more thoughts and feelings in more detail, and it's also very much of a, in a way, a cathartic thing. I'm able to almost self-analyze, but have you ever done a recorded cassette?
I tried to some years ago when my sister was living in Cyprus. We thought that this would be a very good way to communicate, but it never really worked. I know that people do and find it very satisfactory, but it's not really my thing. Like you, I use the phone mostly. I have people who I communicate with once a year on Christmas cards, and then on the back of the Christmas card, I write a sort of brief resume of what's been going on in the year. And just recently, I have been writing more letters. My parents are very elderly and not in very good health now, so I phone them fairly frequently to find out how things are. But I've also decided to write to them at least once a week, because I can tell them things in more detail than I would on the phone. They've also got a letter to sit over and read again. It will take up more time in their day, which I think is important. And also, they very often forget things that I say on the phone, so maybe in a letter they might remember it a bit more. And people send me postcards when they go on holiday, and I love that, so I always try and send people postcards too.
That's the end of side 2.